So I saw a great reaction. I believe it was you and Ken who did this one. The person who was having a wedding, and they said, here's a life hack. You can put all of your expenses on the credit card, and now we got a free trip. And we got our honeymoon paid for with credit card points. I'm looking at that, and I'm thinking that's fantastic. That's a great choice, because if if the budget is, let's say, $20,000, you can open up 3 to 4 credit cards, get the sign-up bonus on all of them. That's a free trip. Free airfare, free hotel.
You know what's more
Everything's paid for.
expensive? The marriage counseling. When you start your marriage off with $60,000 in credit card debt at 24%
But let's
APR.
just assume, okay, $60,000. I don't know if that was the exact amount that they were spending. You could probably do that on $10,000 to $15,000. Get a totally free honeymoon paid for just by opening up the cards, getting the sign-up bonus. Let's say $15,000. If you're going to spend $15,000 anyway, and you're intentional about it, that's a free trip. That's a free honeymoon. So it's saving you money at the end of the day.
Well, I got a free wedding, so I can't talk. But most people, when it comes to weddings, they're way overspending. And so if it's your money, if it's Graham's money from his bank account, from his debit card, you're going to look at that wedding very differently. You're going, let's actually get quotes from multiple florists and see what, and you may be entering this space soon where it's we got to start planning for this thing. And I'm not trying to spend $80,000 on a wedding to throw a party for other people. And so it changes how you make decisions when you use your own money. And that's honestly the biggest reason I advocate for debit cards over credit cards, because mentally, it's different. When it's coming out of your bank instantly, you treat that differently than, well, I'll pay this off at the end of the month in bulk.
I think we're getting very nuanced here. Graham's trying to pull up specific examples and numbers and everything, exactly why it's better. And you're providing the psychology behind it all.
Right,
so I think the fundamental difference here is that Graham thinks that if you are someone that's very diligent with their money, you go through your statements and you're intentional about everything, and you can remove your emotions from your finances, then yes, there's a net positive. And you're saying probably, right? Probably.
Well, most people think they're that person is the problem. We all put ourselves in that bucket of well, I'm the type of person, I'll never have a balance on my credit card. And we're $987 billion in credit card debt as a nation. Average credit card debt, $6,000 a person. And so I'm everyone started that journey going, well, yeah, I'm not going to be that guy. And all of a sudden you're that guy at 24% interest, and you're calling our show and you're like, I'm $130,000 in credit card debt at 22% interest.
Well, I feel like a lot of those are people who spent money they didn't have to begin with. If I have $5,000 in my savings account, but no, I think a lot of people just put the money in the card expecting I could make the minimum payment. It's not going to be that bad. I'll think about it from a year from now. I think very few people see I have $5,000 in savings. I'm going to spend $2,000 anyway. I'm going to put it on the card and pay it off immediately. I have a feeling a lot of people say I have $1,000 in cash. I have a $5,000 thing I'm going to spend money on. Let me just put it on the card and pay it off later.
I'll say this. I don't think I would be a net worth millionaire today if I still had my credit cards. I think using a debit card changed my mentality, and it changed my goals to where it caused me to spend way more intentionally, be on a budget, and win more when it comes to money and speed up that process.
Can you admit, if you have technically on paper somebody who can do every single thing right and play the game, they would be better off financially using credit?
They can benefit from it, and that's true. I'm not saying that there's people out there who, people who have become millionaires and they don't have debt and they have emergency funds who they can use credit cards and pay them off every month, and they're going to be fine. I'm not mad at anyone who uses credit cards. I'll be friends with you all day long. But the data is too clear to me, and not just the data, but the reality of it, because we take the brunt of people who are struggling, that everyone has the mentality that they're not going to be that guy, but then life hits and they become that guy. And so, the credit card rewards, I just looked into Capital One's financial statements for 2022, because another angle on this is who is paying for the rewards. And a lot of people are like, well, the interchange fees, when you go you spend money, it's, 3% is charged to the business, and that gets passed on in rewards. I looked at the numbers, and Capital One's revenue, over $15 billion came from interest, which is people who couldn't pay the balance, interest and fees. Only about $6 billion came from the other revenue through interchange fees. And so about 2/3 of the rewards mathematically is paid for by people who are hurting and struggling and paying interest. And so you're not a bad person if you reap the rewards, but for me personally, it just feels icky to me. I don't want to support a system that operates in that way.
I think also there's a little level of confirmation bias between you two, because just the people you surround yourself by, everyone that calls in has basically been demolished by credit and everything. But Graham and I, on the other hand, like the people that we associate with, a lot of the people we discuss, because it's just a part of our circle, you know, like they've done it extremely well and it's benefited them a ton. So I think there's also just a difference in culture and the people that we're
absolutely.
around.
Yeah. I mean, you're speaking to this percent of people who are like the uber finance nerds. We are talking to like every American, all walks of life. You come to us, we're going to help you. And that's the thing, is like our plan works for everyone. It may not be the fastest as far as like, could you go win the lottery tomorrow and could you get really good at playing stocks? You could, but the chances of you getting burnt on that versus winning in the long term is much higher. And so that's where we just go, I'm not a risk guy, and I want to win. As stupid as I am, I still want to win financially. And so I love that this plan works for people across the spectrum.
Yeah.